4 in the box, ready to go. Here's your look at the brand new Hasbro. This is the Ghostbusters Plasma Pack. Celebrate 40 frighteningly funny years with the 40th anniversary Ghostbusters Plasma Pack. This small action figure set features 4 Ghostbuster figures, including Egon Spangler, Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Winston Zeddemore. At 3.75-inch scale, features classic Hasbro O-ring design and detailing. This collectible set includes 4 Ghostbuster Proton Packs, 1 Ghost Trap, 1 PK meter, and 1 pair of Ecto goggles. When there's something strange in a smaller size. Before we get a closer look, though, at the Hasbro Ghostbusters Plasma Pack, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figures stand. These sell as a set of 4, and for the set of 4, you're looking to spend around $45. That's US, though. It's going to be about more $70 when you're here in Canada. And for that, I think that some could say that that's a little high of a price, but then when you start to do the math and you realize that there's 4 figures in the set, that works out to be about a $10 piece figure. I don't think that's that bad, and I think you at least get some accessories with these as well. I know we're kind of getting ahead of things. Like I said, though, we're going to take the tape measure. I'm not going to measure each and every one of these, by the way, just because, again, if you're looking at the bod, they're pretty much identical to one another. Peter Venkman is really the only exception, with the one that doesn't like to tuck in his boots. You're looking, though, at the figure, or I guess his pants, being about 3.5 inches, or about 3 3/4 inches in height, translating, though, to each of the figures being about 9 centimeters tall. Now, the figures are using a G.I. Joe style of body, but if you're looking to compare them, like, for example, with a 25th anniversary figure, you're going to notice that they're going to be coming up a little bit short. I think, though, the 25th anniversary G.I. Joes, though, were known for being a little bit taller than regular Joes. So, that would make some sense as to why they're a little bit taller. Here's also what the figures look like with a Playmobil Ghostbusters. And there's a reason why I'm also bringing those in. And here's, of course, what they also look like with the Hasbro. This was the Plasma series that we got later on. And it's odd, though, that we're kind of switching our gears. I get really the sell of why they made these figures in the first place was probably to gear towards the HasLab Ecto 1 or Ecto 1A, and why they maybe shrunk the size of these. Still, though, I would love to see at some point they go back to the Plasma series regular size figures, because I think the figure line was too good just to start off and cancel it. I guess before we jump to gear, let's jump to box. I did want to show you guys the box that this does come included with. What I really like about it, though, is it's done in like the old VHS style, or if you're like myself who grew up with Beta, a Betamax box. I do like that they've added some weathering here off to the side. I haven't done this myself. I mean, I came arriving like this. It does say also 40 years on top. It's got the name of the characters on the top of the name of... What's interesting, though, as opposed to putting the actual actors' names, they put the name of the Ghostbusters themselves. I think that's a nice little touch. On the bottom of it as well, there's a warning choking hazard. We're going to open up the inside. There's the advertisement. I would hope at some point they're going to release this as an art print. Maybe add that to my basement downstairs. Shows you as well the various gadgets. It shows you also an advertisement of what the Ghostbusters will look like inside the HasLab Ecto 1. No, I haven't backed that. Inside, of course, we've got some tech specs, and then on the back we've got ourselves the top, though, of the building, and the Ghostbusters ready to battle Zool. I guess Gozer. Let's move that off to the side, though. The Ghostbusters do come included with proton packs, neutrino wands, which actually have to be installed. They come also with a ghost trap, a PK meter, and Ecto goggles. Working that back a little bit, each of the individual proton packs do require a little bit of assembly. The proton packs look okay. I mean, they're molded all in black plastic. Down below, you can see as well, they've got a little bit of red added in there. Now, when it takes the neutrino wand, essentially when you saw the opening of this video, these attach on the bottom here. So if you're looking at it, kind of looks like the capital I. And then on the bottom here, this basically just plugs in place. You have to rinse and repeat the steps times 4. And it just basically plugs in place. Super, super easy. One worry I do have, though, is probably the same worry that you're probably having now looking at this right now, is the thinness of this plastic and the way that it's curved like this. Sure, it's fine and good that you can have this in the Ghostbusters' hands, but I wonder if after time, that's going to, especially right there, I think that that's going to be a weak point for maybe the plastic to start to fray, start to crack, start to split, start to break. And you could be it's all super sad. Again, when you're looking at these, though, there's a little slot there on the side. There's a peg right there, so easily you can just plug these in place. And again, being that these are G.I. Joe style bodies, you got yourself a very large, obvious peg. And if you look at the back of the figure's bodies, there's a very obvious hole. Matching up the simple shapes, proton pack stays pretty well on the back of their bodies. It's not going to go anywhere. If, though, you want to have the proton neutrino wands in their hands, here again, like if you're looking at the plastic, how many times are you going to be able to really do this? Basically, just take yourself the proton pack, the neutrino wand, I should say, fit that into their hand. You can bend, of course, the elbow, and then we can go ahead and bring the other arm around. Careful not to put your hand over the stream. That's probably not going to be a bad thing. Will be a bad thing. And then you basically just have the neutrino wand in his hand like that. Now, you can see with the way the wire was already pre-formed like this, look how many stress points we have a potential hazard for. It's going to be bending here. It's going to be bending here. And down below here, maybe it's got a little more stress, more lax, I should say, down below here. But I don't know. I just feel like maybe this wire over time, how long is a thin piece of plastic like that going to really last? Don't answer that question. I don't want to know. But again, basically you would just rinse and repeat that with every one of the Ghostbusters. Each one of them have a proton pack. Each one of them have a neutrino wand. And each one of them, I'm sure, will have the same worry on your part. The figure does also come, or figures for that matter, do also come included with the Ghost Trap. Ghost Trap does have some silver paint added on the sides. We got the 84 tubes there on the side, as opposed to the silver Ghostbusters 2. Spin on this side. Of course, we got some silver accents there as well. And the alternating colors of yellow and black there on the top as well. Now, this doesn't open at all. It doesn't have any effect pieces. But again, like you can take this and put this into the Ghostbusters' hands. You want to do, we'll do Winston here. Every Ghostbuster essentially does have an accessory piece. I mean, I would always really like to put the PK meter with Egon. Ecto goggles, yeah, with Ray. Peter Venkman just doesn't want to be there. Oh, right, no. I mean, Bill Murray just doesn't want to be there. So usually, though, I'll just probably take the Ghost Trap. And that's usually the job of Winston. Winston is just the guy that has to carry around the Ghost Trap. That just fits in his hands. Works basically just the exact same way in all the figures. You also get as well some Ecto goggles. So you already know who these are going to go to. Molded again, just all in black plastic. There's no paint. Nothing at all gets afforded to these accessories. Well, the Ecto goggles are pretty much the one that saves the budget on all the rest of them because they haven't given anything paint-wise to those. And of course you can take that. Put that on Ray Stan's head. It's pretty tight. Pretty tight. To the point where almost I feel like when you're putting it on top of Ray's head, if that's going to start to scratch the paint down the road, would I be all that surprised? Probably not. With the what little time I've actually done that, we have no paint scrapage, so that's good. I just don't think that that's probably going to be a good idea moving forward. I mean, once you put it on there and leave it the way it is, I'm sure it's not going to do any damage, but constantly putting it on and removing it, yeah. Paint scrapage may be a possibility. Lastly, figures also do come included with a PKE meter. I'm disappointed, though, that the PKE meter screen doesn't have any green or anything on that. I mean, other than maybe just the antennae on the side being painted in silver. That's all the paint the PKE meter gets allotted. And, of course, that can also go in Egon's hands. The PKE seems to be a lot thicker than the handles of the neutrino wand. So, again, you just want to... You don't really have to fight with the hands. Basically, just clip them onto the sides. And now Egon Spangler's got his PK meter. What he's actually looking at, I don't think he's realized that the PK is actually off right now. Those are all the accessories that come included with these figures. Now, obviously, before we actually get down to looking at all the individual figures themselves, why, though, I did bring in earlier the Playmobil figures. I will tell you, though, I'm not a big fan of Playmobil. I like everything that goes with Playmobil, the vehicles, and I think they spend a lot of time putting accessories with these figures, but at the end of the day, you really have to like the line and like the figures. I don't love Playmobil. Something about their just lifeless faces, somewhat spooky. But the reason, though, why I wanted to bring in a Playmobil figure is, I will tell you, I haven't backed at all the Ecto 1 or Ecto 1A. Two reasons, mostly. First of all, I didn't have the space. There's no place I could actually store how big this thing will actually be. And also, too, it was just way too expensive. It was tempting, but at the end of it, I just decided to pass altogether on it. I'm happy with the replicas that it got for the HasLab. I don't need anything else outside of that. However, though, if you have been collecting at all any of the Playmobil stuff and Playmobil Ghostbusters figures, you probably already have a lot of these accessories already in your collection. Like, for example, the Terror Dogs. Now, I've got not just one, but I've actually got two Terror Dogs. They have open and closing mouths. They, again, like their heads move up and down. They have articulation where it counts. And to put these on display, They're actually a perfect size to go along with the Ghostbusters. If you are lucky enough that maybe you didn't get the chance to pick up the Playmobil Ghostbusters, but you could find them dirt cheap, pick them up, because you can actually find some of those accessories, like even the Slimer. I mean, it's not the most movie accurate Slimer, but, you know, again, like for a Slimer, I don't have the display base. It's packed away somewhere. I mean, for a Slimer, that's a pretty good size as well. You probably know where this is all going to be going. So, because I didn't actually back the Ecto-1 or Ecto-1A, I'm just going to move everything out of the way for a second here. Questions I'm sure you'll be asking right away is, well, wait a minute. Playmobil did release an Ecto-1. Yes, they did. It's got good news and there's bad news. So let's kind of move the figures first out of the way here. Slide them all out of the way. Oh, not to drop Peter there. Let's just bring in the Ecto-1A. Now, we'll tell you right away, the Ecto-1A scales, well, in my personal opinion, I think it scales well with these figures. To the point, though, like if you're putting like the Ecto-1A, you know what, let's just take one big sweep and move them all out of the way. There's the Ecto-1A that came for Playmobil. Let's take Egon, let's take Winston, let's get the names right. Let's put Peter Venkman there in front of it. And let's also put Winston Zeddemore. Yeah, Ray Stantz right over here. And we can't, of course, forget Egon, who's got the PKA meter still off. Come on, Egon, get with the times. Put them all in front of the car. That car scales, again, I think right. I mean, obviously the HasLab one's going to be quite a bit longer. It's going to be a little bit wider as well. If you're looking to scale these guys, though, on the shelf with the Playmobil one, there's nothing that really that looks at the Playmobil. When I'm looking at the car itself, nothing at all looks like it's a different line altogether. I mean, yeah, maybe there's a little bit more simplicity that they've given to some of the things like the ladder, like some of the sticker applications. But you know, though, as a serviceable stand-in, if you don't have this to shell out, though, for the HasLab release, I think, though, the Playmobil one fits in perfectly. And even though I really wanted to have this all prepped in time, I was trying to find all the pieces there. I'm missing a few of the sidewalls, though, for the firehouse. The firehouse also, because it's scaled to fit the Ecto-1. If they don't ever release a HasLab, could you imagine the size of a HasLab firehouse? If they don't, and you happen to have the Playmobil firehouse, yeah, you probably can already see where this is going. Sure, it's all fine and good to be talking about how well this can work with the Ecto-1. I'm sure, of course, the obvious next logical question you guys will be asking is, will the figures sit inside the car? No, they don't. First of all, one thing I really like about the Playmobil one is the accuracy level of this, down to the sticker applications on the side, down to the fact that even the back of the car, I know this isn't really a review, though, for the Playmobil release of it. There's the inside interior. But on the top of it, though, there was also not only sirens or sound effects, but you could also turn on the lights. I mean, I'm not to alienate you, though, away from the idea of backing the HasLab release of this, but just like keep this, though, in mind. When this was initially released, if you were lucky enough to get your hands on it, I think it was a little over $100 or so, and it came also with some figures, too. I mean, for that, if I can actually get... Yeah, I mean, like, that's a pretty good Ecto-1 to be displayed again along with the Ghostbusters. Could you just show us what it looks like inside? Oh, okay, all right, fine. Now, with the Ecto-1, how that works, let's just turn off the light here. You take the top canopy off and you just put it off to the side. I mean, you can put it anywhere you want. Here's where a bit of the bummer already happens, is it's not so much the fact that the figures don't fit inside the car, it's the fact that the car was designed for Playmobil figures. Playmobil, by nature, have really short, stumpy legs. So, like, they have no issues at all. I mean, obviously, just taking off the proton pack here for, I think this is Venkman. Yeah, that's Venkman. Just taking off the proton pack. There we go. I mean, with them having short, stumpy legs like this, it's so very easy to get them sitting inside the car. Why am I losing his wig now all of a sudden? Get it on there. There we go. All right. Get him sitting inside the car, as I was trying to say. You can see by having short legs like this, they fit perfectly inside, and they also fit fine, really, on all the other seats. Even though these guys are scaled to this, here's the only biggest issue facing these Ghostbusters by actually being able to use the Playmobil release of it. They sit inside fine, but because they don't have they have too long of a leg, there's no way that you can actually have them sitting inside. Had it not been for like this piece right here, which maybe you could be able to take off. I mean, if that piece wasn't there, you'd easily be able to sit a Ghostbuster inside Ecto-1. And there probably would be enough space. Like, you might be able to double up the legs, maybe crisscross, have them scissor their leg. I don't know. But you'd probably be able to fit both Ghostbusters in there. But again, like, the biggest issue, though, is that they can't sit in the front because the legs are way too long. Had, again, this only been opened up like normal vehicles usually would be, Then the Ghostbuster would sit fine inside of this, and we wouldn't even be having this discussion. Well, I guess we still would be having this discussion. So yeah, just in case you are curious, the Playmobil Ecto-1, even though, again, like you can't really have them sitting inside unless you kind of customize it, the car would fit fine. The firehouse would also fit fine as well because it's scaled to this. That whole talk, how much time did we spend actually talking about Playmobil? Let's talk about the figures themselves. So, looking at the individual figures, let's go ahead and just take all the accessories out of their hands. Do we want to start with Winston, seeing as Winston was kind of the last figure that we looked at? Okay, so all the figures do have O-rings. You see the O-rings inside there. They also have the screw compartment on the back. So if you're familiar with G.I. Joes and dissecting Joes back in the day, this was me. I could always take apart G.I. Joes just like that, and I could fix an O-ring like the best of them out there. Basically, you just unscrew this, you take the front half, take the back half off. The O-ring would basically sit inside of a peg here. You put the new O-ring in, snap that, have to kind of like balance the arms on either side, put the front and the back on. Nobody really even cares about that. So like, again, they are using standard G.I. Joe bodies. The head sculpts, though, starting first with Winston, it's not bad. Winston, I will say, has one of the better looking heads. He also has the shorter hair, because this is Ghostbusters 1. They all, for the most part, other than Venkman, are all going to use the same body. All of them are going to have the longer boots, because, of course, they tuck their pants in. I will say, though, about the costumes, I don't know if it's just, though, my eyes, but the costume looks off-yellowed. Like, I feel like it should be more of a cream color and less like this yellowish tint it seems to have. All of them have, of course, the Ghostbusters patch on the side. Of course, their last name, their patch there on the front of their chest. The belt there on the front, the gloves, the little tube that runs to the side. And, of course, you got your boots down below. All of them also do have pegals on the bottoms of their feet. And for the articulation of all of these, the head is, first of all, going to only rotate forward and back. G.I. Joe articulation, after all. Swivel all the way on the arms. You can also hinge the arms out easily beyond the point of a T-pose. Something that's also interesting, too, is like old G.I. Joes would have had like visible screws right here. They have now capped the screws, and they've colored them so somewhat matching the colors of the costume. They have a single hinge. Well, first of all, they have a swivel in the bicep. They have a single hinge in the elbow. No articulation, though, to the hands. One thing you may notice, though, about the hands is that they're not facing right up. I mean, they're kind of curved a little bit off to the side. The legs can go, of course, sit forward and sit back more. So I noticed, though, with a lot of the Ghostbusters, though, as you're kind of moving the legs around, they kind of get hung up on the inside. I never really remembered G.I. Joe's giving me as much of this issue. But when I'm like moving the leg, it really does feel like there's a lot fighting on the inside there. They do, of course, have just single hinges in their knees. No articulation at all for the feet. Standard G.I. Joe articulation, but that's Winston Zedmore. Looking at Ray Stantz, let's go ahead and just take off his Ecto goggles. Not a bad, again, head sculpt. A little more on the simpler design. Paint's pretty good for all of these. I'm not sure how far we're going to be getting into this O-ring style Ghostbusters line. Will we be getting Ghostbusters 2? I don't know. Louis Tully, I think, is also one of the perks of jumping on board the HasLab Ecto-1 and Ecto-1A. Again, if you're looking at them, they're going to be exactly the same bodies. I still, again, can't think. I'm looking at these. It just seems like there's a little more of like an off yellowish tint. Almost like maybe even like the sun hit these the wrong way and they've started to change the coloring of the plastic. And then, of course, you've got yourself this whole time when Peter Venkman's got his proton pack and his Neutrino wand here. Let's go ahead and just take that out of his hands. Peter Venkman, again, is not a bad-looking head sculpt. I think he has a little bit more hair, though, in the figure than he does in the actual movie. But I think, again, like for the likeness of it, not being all that terrible. Again, the only thing that's really different, though, with Peter Venkman is just, again, like he doesn't seem to like to tuck his pants in. So, of course, he does have only just the bottoms of his boots showing. And then finally, we also have Egon Spengler, which, again, I know I've already kind of looked at these a little bit, but let's get a little more of a closer look at what these actual figures look like. They've painted really only just the frames of his glasses. I've decided not to, of course, put in the lenses, but that would only have just distorted his eyes. Yeah, if you had like the original G.I. Joes growing up in the 80s, I mean, I think the Ghostbusters, these ones fit in pretty well for that. And, of course, also on the back of their bodies, too. They have the elbow pads. If you have the arms straight like this, it also finishes off the elbow pad. If you bend it, it's going to break up the sculpt, but that's unavoidable. All in all, though, they're not bad-looking figures. Again, like for this set, I actually got this from Entertainment Earth. It was around $45. Then I had to do the conversion. Then I had to do the shipping. Then I had to do all the other fun stuff that went along with that. I think when I was all in, I was probably looking at around $78. $78, I think, is too steep for that. But if I have to kind of look at that at what the US dollar and the initial price point for this set would have been. that would have been like $45. So $45 works out to be about $10 a piece figure. If these were those sold separately, you'd have to kind of ask yourself, $10 per Ghostbuster, each one to have a proton pack. Each, for the most part, do have their own designated accessories. I mean, if you kind of, give everyone out one thing, Peter Venkman's usually, for me, at least the one that's only just going to be displayed like on his own. For that and that alone, $10, not bad at all. The only thing that does kind of concern me, though, is the Neutrona wand wire. Just with the pose that they've got it in and dealing with such thin plastic. I don't know. Is this going to give me something that down the road is going to start to develop like fracture marks, stress marks? Is it going to start to rip or break? I hope not. One thing that's also I did want to bring to your attention as well is none of them have neutrino streams or proton streams. I was kind of curious. I wanted to pull one at least from the Playmobil, keep going back to the well of the Playmobil. It doesn't fit. Like the end of the nozzle, though, for the Neutrona wand is way too small, and it doesn't accommodate the much larger required hole for the proton stream, so you can't use those. Maybe you might be able to come across with something like, I don't know, maybe like the real, I guess not the real Ghostbusters. Yeah, now even like the Plasma series Ghostbusters, you couldn't use the neutrino streams or proton streams with those either, because like again, these wands are a little bit smaller. And then again, like, not that I do again want to sway you guys away from the idea of getting on to the HasLab Ghostbusters Ecto-1 and Ecto-1A, but again, like, I don't feel the need for it. Like, I've got myself a pretty nice looking car already, courtesy of Playmobil. Like, this had really kind of sat in my boxes for a while, just because I didn't think to myself, oh, I don't love Playmobil to the point where I like the car. I don't like the figures, though. But now I still like the car, and I don't need the figures, because again, like, if you happen to have that car, it scales, again, on my own personal opinion, pretty well indeed with what we're getting here with the plasma pack. And if then you're looking at the scale to these guys, to what you're getting with the car, the figures themselves by that would also scale really decently too with the Playmobil Firehouse. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it into this review. If I happen to find all the other missing pieces, because I think I'm missing a couple of wall pieces or floor pieces, if I happen chance to kind of get everything built together, maybe I'll do a follow-up review and I'll show you guys what the figures look like with that. Actually, I was just about to jump over to the turntable when it did probably occur to me as well, this whole time about talking about issues maybe I would have had with the proton packs, did also want to bring in the ones from Playmobil. This video just seems like one long advertisement for Playmobil. Maybe not, I don't know. The proton packs clearly are a lot smaller for Playmobil, but though, about Playmobils, they're using actually a rubbery piece of plastic. In fact, theirs attaches by a separate cording. The cording goes in here, the cording goes to here, and they're using, again, stretchy, rubbery plastic. The contrast. By the way, too, also, if you guys want to see what that looks like on the back of the Ghostbusters. I mean, they sit okay. I mean, you could look at that, too, and think like, that's not that small either. And in case you did want to also maybe use this, you probably would have to customize clearly the back of it, because that's not going to be plugging onto the back of their bodies. But though, if you did want to use these proton packs, then you can go back to the Neutrona wand streams and you could attach those just onto the ends, because of course they will fit. Nobody, I'm sure, is probably going to be considering that, but I did at least want to show you guys what the differences were between the proton packs before we jump over to the rotisserie. On one end, I'm disappointed that Hasbro doesn't seem all that interested in pursuing the regular Plasma series figures. Sure, they went all the way up to Afterlife, but I think there was certainly life after that movie. They could have easily pursued something in the realm of Ghostbusters 2. Now they seem to be shrinking a lot of the size down more to accommodate the upcoming HasLab release of the Ecto-1 and Ecto-1A. And I think, obviously, to cater that vehicle, they wouldn't have been able to work it well with the Plasma series figures the way that the scale is now. Because, I mean, look at the size of that car already. To fit these figures, you can only imagine how big the car would be if it has to fit the much larger scale Ghostbusters. So I can get behind at least these being a little bit smaller. I have no, again, interest in collecting the car just for space, just for fun, just for money, just for a whole lot of reasons why I just never got behind backing that campaign. But having these figures just stand alone on my shelf, yeah, they're going to look nice. I do kind of wish, though, like, for a $45 set, you again can look at the price. I'm not going to kind of adjust that to Canadian prices, because I don't think that's fair for the line. I don't think it's fair for you guys to say, like, I spent almost $80 for this set. And I think that based on that, $20 a figure isn't worth it, because that's not what the original price was. For $45, I think that's a little bit more manageable, because it works out that each Ghostbuster works maybe about $10 a piece. For that, they get their own individual accessories. I would have loved if they had maybe included like the plasma streams. That would have been nice touches, or maybe even display stands too. But at the end of it, though, we get nice looking Ghostbusters, more really akin to like the retro toy lines, and that's not a bad thing at all. Now, I did actually get this set over on Entertainment Earth, so if you guys are interested and would like to get the set for yourself, it's still over on there, and I think it's still on sale right now. You can also use the affiliate link provided down below in the video description. That same affiliate link, would you believe, would also mark off 10% on anything that's currently in stock. If Ghostbusters isn't your jam, and other things are your jam, you can use the 10% off link and use it on anything that's currently in stock. What do you guys think of these figures? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you have backed the HasLab Ecto-1, if you are planning to get that car, how are you planning to display it? As the Ecto-1 or the Ecto-1A? I think personally for me, for the nostalgia of loving the original 84 film, I don't know, I probably would have still gone with the Ecto-1A. I just like the lights, the sounds, and all the blitz and bland that were all over that car. Blitz and bland? All just the additional frills with a little screen that they had on the side of the car, and again, all the additional baggage they had on top of the canopy. Yeah, I would have probably displayed it as the Ecto-1A. If you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Got a lot more videos obviously coming your way for the rest of this week, so making sure, of course, you're coming back on a regular basis. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.